So let's talk this Elden Ring addiction that's sweeping the internet, at least
Mhm.
some, because you're 150, nearly 155 hours in.
Yeah.
What sets this game so apart for you? Why are you loving it so much?
Okay. Well, I played Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3. I actually started with 2, then I started with 1 and 3, and just kind of moved between the three of them until I eventually beat all three of them. And Sekiro, and they're all from a company called FromSoft or From Software. Which their original entry into the whole thing was Demon Souls, which just got re-released not too long ago on the PS5. And the trend of the games is they touch on the old school vibe for me.
Mm.
The old Nintendo vibe, which is game difficult, persevere, learn the moves, learn how the enemies attack, learn how to get through it, persevere, win, get that little endorphin rush of success, and then move on to the next thing.
Right.
And basically it's that same sort of game on a bigger scale. And they basically took everything that I enjoyed about the Dark Souls series and they magnified it because you have super hard boss fights which require you to learn patterns or have special gear equipped or be able to call on people to help you out in certain situations or just to know the timing and the moves and everything else. There's open world exploration. It is a kind of a living world in its own way, and that people are, things are going to happen, and you're kind of in it. So there's that mode to it. If you get to a boss or something and you're frustrated, you can go out, you can grind up some levels, you can go explore other areas, you can do more content. You're not just limited to a single linear path. Okay. You could continue to go back and do as many things. I mean, I've lost track of how many bosses I've killed in the game. There's like 90 bosses in the game. I don't remember how many I've killed at this point. I've gotten far enough along in the story that I could make an end game run if I wanted to, but I don't. I want to explore all the content. I want to find all the weapons, all the special armors. I want to play all the little storylines out because there are miniature little storylines that run throughout the game when you meet certain NPCs and you'll play through their little storylines. There's just so much to do. And not so much to do in the sense of, I mean, there's a crafting system. It's very rudimentary, but it's not like, on the level of Minecraft or anything else where you just build whole giant buildings. It's more or less like just building little items to help yourself out.
Okay.
By gathering materials.
Interesting.
There's you ride a horse on everything. You engage in mounted combat with monsters on overland battles.
Do you think it'll I mean, obviously we've seen a lot of really bad game adaptations. Do you see this becoming a movie?
I hope
TV
not.
show?
I hope not.
Definitely not in the modern era. Definitely not right now.
No, I don't honestly see it lending itself very well to film or television. The experience wouldn't be the same.
Right.
For one thing, they'd have to artificially add in a bunch of characters to kind of flesh it out. And I don't think anybody would really be interested in going to go see a movie where you're constantly having to watch the main antagonist either force his way through tough combats or pick his way through dangerous areas with traps and puzzles and stuff like that. I just don't think that would be appealing. So they'd have to artificially add NPCs and romance subplots and all the other dreck that makes Hollywood movies terrible. And with the current trend in Hollywood films, they'd probably want to make it some kind of a person of color type romance thing. And
yeah, we'd have to have one of every box, right? We had to check all the boxes.
Yeah,
there had to be a POC, an evil white guy who betrays somebody,
a transgendered person in there. Yeah. And and it's like, and this game just really doesn't deal with any of that stuff. This game is more about just telling the story.
Video game stuff. That's awesome.
Yeah.
what makes you think people? Because you're putting your hours in, you're enjoying the exploration. Why are all the streams so big? What people enjoy watching? 'Cause some of these Elden Ring streams are 6, 7, 8, 9 hours long, and tons of people watching. Why do you think the appeal there is?
Partially, it's probably watching how many times people will fail. Because I mean,
Little, what do they call it? Schadenfreude? Little Schadenfreude?
oh, maybe so. Because I
I
mean,
may have said that wrong, but
yeah, I mean, it's like the game is tough. You know,
that's true.
the you
Heard that.
died thing is so constant. You know, seeing people die over and over and over, and then finally getting through a tough area, or finally succeeding in beating a really tough boss or something like that. It's got to be fun to watch. I tuned into Mahler and watched him go through a section of the game just out of curiosity one morning, and it was actually kind of fun to watch. It was informative for me because it was an area I hadn't been to yet.
Okay.
But for another thing, it was fun to see him go through it. Just because it's like you're kind of getting an insight into the person's thought process and listening to them kind of talk their way through it, and you know, probably fail many times in the process. And it's just fun. And at the very least, you can learn from those mistakes if you're playing the game and go, okay, so now I know what to expect if I get to this area.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Really is. Yeah.
I have not been live streaming as much of my games as I probably should, for the simple fact that I honestly kind of find it a little bit distracting, because when I'm
You would have to
live streaming,
verbally talk, right? You're used to reacting, using your hands, whatever. You have to be able to communicate. Because I catch myself, and if you listen to my video today, it was terrible, but it was kind of like, oh, I this isn't working. Let me click over here, and I'm typing or whatever. You have dead air. I'm like, oh well, you know, that's really not good. Boomering along like I do, but yes, I would never be able to do that. I would never be able to multitask like that. I am not a gamer. Again, like I said, I am going to pretend I'm an old school Atari kind of player. I did not ever evolve. I never got into it. I did other stuff instead, but it is still it's a cool thing, man. And I like I said, I love listening, hearing, finding things that people like and that they're good. That is really what I want to see resurrected out of the last few years, because I can count on like definitely one hand maybe of like good films, and I'm like good films and shows and stuff that I can recommend. It's like definitely 10 or less. Like it's just so hard to find stuff. I'm like, yeah, this is really good. This is fun. The Elden Ring has moved into that category, even though it's not even my thing. I can just recognize the fan love, for lack of a better phrase. So that's good to get your endorsement. That's your good. It's awesome.
It's fun. I mean, half of the fun is picking up a new weapon and trying out all the different moves and seeing how it works. And because the combat, I'm not going to say the combat is 100% realistic, but it is, it's fairly realistic in the sense that there is a little bit of strategy involved. You can't just run at somebody and start swinging. You'll die that way. You have to learn how to block. You have to learn how to roll. You have to learn how to parry, and you have to learn the timing of your opponents. And you have to learn a little bit of strategy. I mean, I'll give you an example. Last night, or maybe it was the night before, I fought an opponent who used a katana, or a pair of katanas, and he would swing in very wide arcs and things. And it would kind of frustrate me because it was every time I would go to attack him, he would roll away, so I could never score a hit on him. So finally, what I did to frustrate him is I just used simple strategy. It's like, okay, I pulled him into a tunnel where you know, it was narrow enough that every time he would swing, his swings would accidentally hit the wall, and it would stuff his hits. And I equipped myself with a big shield and a thrusting weapon.
Okay.
Which was very fast thrusting weapon, like a I think it was an Ipei, which is one of the fastest stabbing weapons in the game. And basically all I did was hunker down behind my shield, let him get himself stuck in the tunnel and start swinging. And when he started failing his swings, he would leave himself wide open, and I'd start counter hitting him immediately. And took a little time, but eventually I took him down that way.
That's awesome, man.
And that's kind of,
it's like adventuring, man. It's like old school adventuring.
It is, and that's part of the fun of it too. You can pick up strategy. You can learn how to approach creatures in a different way than you normally would. Um, Not every opponent fights the same. A lot of opponents have pretty big move sets that you have to kind of accommodate in order to survive them. So it's there's so many levels of strategy and adventure to this thing. It's there's no one particular element to this game that's so much fun, but it's just kind of like all these things combined together to add almost kind of a self narrative experience. Because I mean, even though there is an overarching narrative to the whole game, part of the fun is just kind of constructing in your head, how things are going. It's like, okay, well, I'm here, I'm looking around, and I was like, oh, look, there's this guy with a sword coming at me, and he's got a shield. So I have to account for the shield. Well, if he's got a shield on his left side, I circle around to his left because I'm keeping the shield between me and him because I know that that's going to slow his swing down. Unfortunately, he can also bop me with that shield, so I have to be careful and watch my spacing.
Right.
And then I wait for him to open up and throw a big swing, and then I get around behind him and stab him in the back.
Yeah, this is why it's entertaining, folks. That's why people are really enjoying it. So
yeah, I mean, I'm just talking about it. I mean, to actually see it in action is more fun.